expenses are, because she has not provided a single solitary actual expense to justify any deviation from the court's order of spousal support. None, Your Honor. Everyone's an estimate. And the court cannot make a determination based on pure estimates by the party requesting a modification of her own spousal support award.
There's no case law to discuss that, Your Honor. Estimates are commonly used because a DRA has to be filed prior to the time of trial. Usually most pretrial conference orders require 10 days in advance of trial or 30 days, depending on the court and jurisdiction you're in. At that point in time, it is very common practice to have the exact amounts put in. Otherwise, you put estimates in. That is something I've commonly done in 15 plus years of domestic practice. And frankly, if we're talking about my client's expenses and we want to get into the analysis on spousal maintenance, it really doesn't matter because need doesn't have to show. Of course, we're talking about need versus ability to pay. Clearly, there's an ability to pay. Before we start talking about need, it doesn't matter if my client is destitute or has to live or needs the exact amount of money she's requesting by spousal maintenance. It is need as a standard of living. Mr. Yost makes $55,000 a month. So it doesn't matter if my client needs $3,000 a month to live off of, or she needs $9,000 for extra expenses and a standard and the quality of life that she's accustomed to. That is still need.
Have you experienced this as a divorced guy? How many divorced men experience this and go through this same thing? The ex-wife keeps coming back for more, to extort through the family court system. Now, in this situation, she doesn't work and she's getting $3,000 a month in spousal support. She wants it increased to $9,000 a month because her ex-husband is now making much more money and is much more successful. Now, his attorney lays out that all of the expenses, quote unquote, that she has filed with the court are all estimates. None of them are validated. None of them are real. But her attorney then retorts and says, need doesn't have to be shown. She is entitled to a standard and a quality of life she's accustomed to. For how long? How long should he have to pay to support her lifestyle? For life? And how long is she entitled to keep coming back to take more because of his success? She doesn't work, receives $3,000 a month in spousal support. Now she wants $9,000 a month, $108,000 a year. Why? His income has gone up since their divorce, which I believe was about 4 or 5 years prior. And of course, she wants to cash in. She's hired an attorney, which by the way is costing her over $4,000 a month, and she wants her ex-husband to pay for the attorney as part of the increase in spousal support. How's that for insulting? She doesn't even work. And this doesn't include child support if there are children involved, which I believe there are. I can't even imagine what this poor man is having to pay this woman. You know, many guys think divorce is going to mean freedom. It's going to mean a fresh start, a clean break. But when the papers are signed and you're done in the courtroom, you don't walk away a free man. You walk away with a lifetime payment plan. You're shackled to it. The system turns divorce into a lifelong economic sentence for many men. Has that been your experience? Alimony, child support, you miss one payment or God forbid you fall behind. You're a criminal now, according to the court. That's family law. This is financial slavery. My own experience. My ex was a stay-at-home mom, and we agreed she would stay at home until the kids were old enough to go off to school. We divorced when our kids were 5 and 1 years old, and as you can imagine, I got my ass handed to me financially by family court. My ex actually had a master's degree in education, and she taught school before the kids came along, so she could support herself. Now, each situation is unique, but shouldn't there be time limits on spousal support where she is expected by the court to support herself completely? And child support, of course, would then be adjusted based on her income as well. Wouldn't that be equality? You didn't ask for this and you didn't fail your family, but the moment the marriage ends, the court labels you the provider, the payer, the one responsible, not because she can't work, not because she's incapable of working, but because the system still believes you earn, she deserves. She's entitled. And so you're ordered to pay spousal support to maintain her lifestyle, child support to fund their lifestyle, and both are set based on your income at its peak, not on what you'll realistically earn. Congratulations, man. I mean, now you're legally obligated to fund two households on one paycheck. Can you relate to this? I certainly could. And think about this. If you had stayed as a married couple, your family income would ebb and flow based on what happens in life. It would go up and down. But in family courts, you're now required to keep her in the lifestyle she's accustomed to. And she can even come back for more, even years after your divorce. It's ludicrous. The alimony trap. Let's talk about alimony. The ghost of marriage past that still haunts your bank account. You're not married anymore. She can date whoever she wants. She can live with someone else. But you're still paying her to exist. It doesn't matter if you're struggling to pay your rent or if you're very successful, like the guy in the initial clip. It doesn't matter if you've lost your job, she's gone back to school, or found a boyfriend with a six-figure income. Until she remarries or the court decides otherwise, you're on the hook. She has rights to your labor and your income. This isn't support, it's a lifestyle settlement. She gets paid to not be your wife anymore. Now, I know some of you guys are going, hey, fine with me, man. That's the price I had to pay to finally be rid of her. I can relate to that myself. But you work like you're still married with none of the rights, none of the intimacy, not that you had intimacy with her when you were married, and of course, none of the family as well. Then you add child support. You add child support to the mix, and most men are financially done. I mean, that's another 20 to 30% of your income automatically withdrawn from your pay, not based on what your child needs, but based on a percentage formula designed to maximize extraction from you. They don't care if the child already has clothes, food, and shelter. They don't factor in the time you spend with the child, what you provide, and the things you buy when you're with the child. She's essentially using the money for herself. They don't audit where it's spent. They don't track it. They just take it. And if you protest, you're anti-child, you're a deadbeat, you're a bad dad. No, brother, actually, you're not. You're a man caught up in a system that profits from your pain. And as you saw in the initial clip, it also profits from your success as well. Family court, divorce court, is a total catastrophe. It's government sanctioned extortion. I experienced it myself. How about you? Comment your thoughts if you did as well. What we're talking about here is financial slavery by design. You work hard, sometimes 2 jobs or more. You skip meals, you don't get vacations, you don't get to see your kids enough because you're working to pay for a life and a lifestyle that you are no longer a part of. And still, you're falling behind. I mean, let's do the math. $1,000 a month in child support, $1,500 a month in alimony, taxes on top of that, your own rent, food, gas, insurance, and etc. You're broke. You're exhausted. And the worst part of it, you're invisible. And society doesn't acknowledge this or even want to talk about it. They will say, man up, take care of your responsibilities. She sacrificed her career for the marriage. Okay, what about now? Can't she work? Can't she meet her own responsibilities after the divorce, especially years after the divorce? And what about your sacrifice? What about your future, your retirement, your mental and physical health? No one asks, and no one gives a damn, quite frankly, because the system doesn't really care if you survive or not, only that she stays comfortable. It's the legal noose around many men's neck. And then what happens when you fall behind? Wage garnishment, destruction of your credit rating, driver's license suspension, possible jail time. I mean, let that sink in for a moment. You can be jailed for failing to pay the woman who, in many cases nowadays, may have left you. 80% of women today are initiating and filing for divorce. Now, why do you think that is? Why do you think it is that such a high percentage of women are willing to initiate and file for divorce? They know the system is rigged. They are confident that in family court, divorce court, more times than not, they're going to come out on top. Otherwise, why would they be willing to take the risk in filing for divorce first? The state also doesn't care why you can't pay. They only care that you didn't pay. And of course, every late payment means more interest, more penalties, and more leverage, more profit for the state, by the way. And this isn't justice. This is a system that turns men like you into indentured servants to their ex-wives. Now, here's the reality. Alimony plus child support equals a lifetime sentence for the crime of being born male in a biased family court legal system. You may think divorce would mean freedom, but for millions of guys out there, it's a financial death sentence. Has this been your experience? And it isn't that the system is broken, it's intentional. It is by design. And you're not being held accountable, as they would say. You're being milked legally, financially, and emotionally. And it's time we call it what it really is, a tax on men, a system that rewards her in many cases of her departing the marriage. And it punishes your devotion and hard work. You may have lost the marriage, you may have lost your kids. Now you're paying to keep her comfortable while you struggle to survive. Guys, if this message resonated with you, please support the channel by subscribing. We are growing, and I would really appreciate if you would hit subscribe and support the channel. It's about men advocating for men. And share this truth with other guys. Share this message with other guys who need to hear it, who may be going through a similar circumstance and need to know that they're not alone. They're not the only one. We need to fight for reform because, again, it's about men advocating for men. Know your worth. Protect your peace.